Hey everybody, Bill 1911 here. Today we're going to talk about a couple of guns that are chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson. Okay, the main focus of this video is going to be on the Beretta PX-4. Okay, that's this little guy here. It's an interesting little gun and it shoots real well. So we're going to do a little bit of a comparison to the Ruger model P94. Now these are both polymer framed guns. They both shoot pretty well. You may have noticed I have my assistant gunsmith with me here today. This is Scamp here. He likes to come and help me out with my videos. So anyway, the P94 is a very good gun, but the way these guys harness recoil is a little bit different. So we're going to discuss that. They're both polymer frames. Steel slides. So from there, let's get into the nuts and bolts of these things. Okay, the main thing I wanted to show you in this comparison was how they differ in the way their operating systems harness recoil. Now, this is the Beretta. And the Beretta, if you will watch right here, this barrel actually rotates as the slide comes back. Okay? So that rotation there actually kind of eats up some recoil. Whenever you change rotating motion into reciprocating motion, that requires an extra amount of energy. This gun, the P94, is solely reciprocating motion. It just goes back and forward. Okay? So without that rotation to eat up that recoil, what happens is that this gun actually has a little bit more muzzle flip to it. Now, what is muzzle flip? Okay, muzzle flip is when you pull the trigger, instead of just the gun recoiling and pushing back like this and up a little bit, the muzzle flips up in the air much worse. So it's a more sharp, violent recoil on your wrist. Okay, now, having shot both these guns, in my opinion, the Beretta has a little bit less of that muzzle flip. It doesn't flip quite as hard. It makes it a little bit more fun to shoot, a little bit easier to shoot. It has just as much overall push to the recoil, but the muzzle doesn't seem to pop up as much on the Beretta as it does on that P94. Now, that said, I really love this P94. It is a terrific gun. The thing about Ruger is, if you have a problem with the Ruger product, if anything breaks, anything goes wrong, you're really having trouble with it, you contact Ruger, and I promise you, Ruger will absolutely stand behind their product. They're probably the best in the industry about how they stand behind their product. With that, we're going to concentrate first on the Beretta. Okay, now as always, we're going to check it out and we're going to make sure that we don't have any ammunition in the chamber or in the magazine. We're going to make sure that the work area is clear. Now I already did this before I started videoing, but we'll do it again. We're going to check both these guns and make sure that there's nothing in them. Okay, so once they're locked open, you can see right into the chamber. All right, so we'll do the same with the Beretta. We'll lock her open. Okay, and it's a little harder to see down inside of this one, but it is definitely clear. Okay, so let's start taking this puppy apart. Now, the Beretta is very simple to get apart. If you will look right here, there is a little button that protrudes from the frame. If you pull back on the slide just slightly and then pull down on that button and then release the slide and push it forward, it'll come right off. Okay. From there, okay, we can remove the recoil spring assembly, all right, which is very simple. And then we can pull the barrel out. Now you're going to have to rotate that barrel a little bit to get it to slide out. All right, so I'm going to do that again and show you what you have to do, okay? When the barrel is in this position, okay, it's locked, okay, and it won't fall down. So we're going to rotate it, okay, so that that lug comes to where it's level with the slide. And then when we let go of it, that barrel will just drop right out of the frame, or out of the slide, and we can pull it back. Alright, so that's field stripping for this gun so that you can do your maintenance on it. Now, it's a polymer frame gun, okay, and it shoots real well. It's got some metal parts in it here and there. Metal lugs are cast into the plastic that the slide moves back and forth on. Of course, the hammer is metal, the springs are metal, the slide release slide lock is metal. There's not a lot that gets a lot of wear on this gun. Here in South Florida we have a humidity issue, but on this gun I'm not going to put a lot of oil in it because I don't think it requires a lot. There's only a couple of spots. Wherever you see metal that is shining, you're going to want to put a drop of oil there, okay? Most of this stuff just isn't going to require much in the way of oil. Where you see stuff that moves like this, I'd put a drop of oil in there, maybe one down here in the trigger spring, but pretty much that's about all there is to it. I might put one in the release, okay, just as a general principle. If your release freezes up for any reason, you're not going to be able to get the gun apart. So I always put a drop of oil in there. Other than that, we're not going to put a lot on this. We're going to oil the recoil spring, okay, and we're going to oil the barrel where it travels through the slide, okay. Places in the slide where you can see where the hammer has drug across the center here, we're going to put a little bit of drop of oil in there. We're going to put a drop of oil where the safety rotates in the slide, okay? But that's not a lot of oil to go into a gun. Alright, so let's get started on all that. First, as always, we're going to clean it, okay? Now, the 40 requires a specific jag, a 40 caliber jag, alright? So we have one in my little kit here, and we're going to mount that on our cleaning rod like we always do. Now, this is a jag. I like jags because I find that they clean very well. Quite often I'll clean the barrel with the jag and I'll look in there and it's so clean that I don't need to go any further. If there are hard deposits in that barrel, there's no problem with using a bore brush, okay, particularly on handguns. On high accuracy rifles, I tend to stay away from bore brushes because they can be a bit abrasive. And if you use a bore brush on a high accuracy rifle, make certain it's a bronze brush and not a stainless steel one. Stainless steel ones will tend to gouge the barrel a little bit. Just put little tiny scratches in it, and that, when you're talking about really high accuracy, when you're shooting things that are, 1,000 yards away, everything counts. So on those situations, you don't really want to push your luck on it. So we're going to need a few things. We're going to need a bore cleaning solvent. Okay, this is a military solvent. I'm familiar with the product, and back in the day, it was plentiful in this store I used to buy them from. So I bought a lot of this stuff. I'm down to about 1 can of this stuff left. And you're going to need a gun oil. I always recommend using specifically a gun oil. Certain plastics don't react well to certain types of oil. I've never heard of anybody having a problem with a polymer frame using WD-40 or anything else like that. So I don't think it's a big issue, but it's just one of those precautions. Gun oil is comparatively cheap by comparison to replacing parts in the gun. So let's get to cleaning that bore. Alright, when we talk about the bore, we're talking about the inside of the barrel. So on our jag, you'll notice we have a sharp little point here on the tip, okay? This tip sharpened tip is what we're going to literally stab through the center of our patch and mount it on that jag. That holds it in place when we push it down the barrel. So first, we get some material on our cleaning patch. Okay. And then we're going to mount it on our jag. Okay, just pops right through. And then we're going to push it through the barrel. Now, after it's gone through the first time, the second time it goes through a lot easier. All right. So when we look in the barrel, it's now going to look kind of shiny inside because we have that solvent down in there. But I wouldn't say it's exactly clean yet. What we're going to do now is let that work for a second while we mount up a dry patch on our barrel and put that through in the same way. So we mount our patch and we push it through. Now this barrel was pretty darn clean. As you can see, the only thing that we have on it is the residue from the bore cleaning solvent. So what we're going to do now is we're going to inspect the inside of our barrel. An easy way to do this, I'm going to show you this. Okay, you can see through the barrel, but if you use that white patch to reflect light through the barrel, you can see a little better. Okay, that lights things up and makes it a little easier for you to see. And that little devil is just clean as a whistle in there. Looks really good. Okay, from here we need to put some oil in this barrel. Okay, so there's a couple ways you can do it. You can use the jag, okay, or I'm going to show you another device that you can also use if you think that the jag is too tight for you, you don't like the way it's fitting in there, it bothers you. This is a device called a ferrule or thimble, okay? So if you don't like the jag, you don't like using it, that's fine. You can put one of these on there and mop your barrel with that, okay? The way we would do that is we would take our patch and we're going to fold it diagonally. And then the patch will simply slip right through that thimble like that. Now from there, we can use that to mop the inside of our barrel with that material to wet any deposits that are in there, okay? And then we can do the same thing with a dry patch, okay, like we did before. It's just a different method of doing the same job. Some cleaning kits don't actually come with jags. Some of them only come with a thimble or ferrule, okay? And that's fine. It works just as well, okay? Well, not just as well. I would say if you don't have a jag, then you're really probably going to want to use a barrel brush. So I'm going to go over a barrel brush real quick with you on this. All right, this one is for the .40 caliber barrel. So there is something that needs to be said about these bore brushes. Okay, when you put a bore brush through your bore, what you don't want to do is get partway through the barrel and then reverse your direction and pull it back the other way, because what happens is as the brush goes into the barrel, these bristles fold backwards toward the back of the brush, okay? And then when you pull it out, those brushes will actually kink in the middle and they will bend. The diameter of the brush will then get smaller, okay? And as it gets smaller, it doesn't put enough pressure on the sides of the barrel to clean it. So when you put your brush through, okay, push it all the way through until it comes out the other side, and then pull it all the way back and brush your barrel that way. Just go back and forth a few times, all right? And that's going to brush your barrel, all right? And we're, like I said, clean as a whistle down there. It looks real good. So that's our barrel. Our recoil spring, okay? Now, we can get into a lot on cleaning this if you want, okay? This recoil spring, as many times as I've shot the gun, it never gets very dirty on this one. I couldn't tell you why. It just doesn't collect a lot of stuff. Some of them really do and really need to be cleaned. So if you want to clean it, get some material on there, okay, and you can brush down the outside of it like that, but that doesn't really get the thing very clean. So what I'm going to suggest is that you fold it diagonally, okay, slip the end of that folded end between a couple of the windings and pull it together on the tight side, okay. From there you can just kind of crank it like it's a big screw, okay, and it will work its way down and clean your spring pretty thoroughly. You're going to have trouble getting underneath the spring, but this is about as good as you're going to be able to do with this. Alright. Now this is an assembled unit, so you can't really take the spring off of it very well. Alright, once you get it to the end, take your patch off, and that recoil spring is about as clean as you're going to get it. If you want, you can now dry it with another patch in the same method. Fold it diagonally, okay. Slip it between the windings. Oh, sorry, a little awkward today. My hands aren't behaving very well. Old guy syndrome. And crank the dry patch through, and that's going to dry things up. Now there is another tip I wanted to give you today. I had a patron write in, and he was saying that I should be wearing rubber gloves when I'm messing with the chemicals, when I'm cleaning these things. And he is absolutely correct. So what if you don't have rubber gloves? What if your budget's a little short and you can't afford them? Okay, well, I'm going to give you a tip. One of the things you can do, now this is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it helps. It's something that you can do that will help a little bit. Take a couple of drops of dishwashing liquid and put it on your hand, smear it all over like lotion, and let it dry, okay? Now what that will do is put a barrier between your skin and the chemicals for the most part. Now will it rub off? Yeah, to a degree it will, okay? So like I said, it's not perfect. But when you go to wash your hands, anything after you've cleaned all this, anything that's on your hand comes right off of that dishwashing liquid. It's just a little tip. I learned that one working on cars, but it does work. So anywhere where you're going to have any old dried up oil, anything like that that you want to clean up, just get in there and scrub it clean. All right. All right, looking good. All right. This is such a sweet gun, it really is. I really enjoy shooting this Beretta. To be honest, I don't think I've ever come across a Beretta product either that I didn't like. Same as the Rugers. I just really like Beretta products. They're very good guns. Now that's not to say that there aren't other guns out there that are terrific. The Glock is a terrific gun. Sig Sauers are terrific. There's lots of really good guns out there. Heckler & Koch, Smith & Wesson. They're all terrific guns. So we're just going to keep getting things cleaned up around here. And any deposits, that solvent is going to just kind of scrub right off of there for us. Alright, there we go. So, we're going to do the same with our slide. Now, a cleaning brush works really well in this. Well, let's say you don't have one. What can you do? Well, you can take your patch and lay it in there, and you can take an implement like a small screwdriver and get down into these little channels. Don't bear down on it because you're going to scratch things, but you can use it just kind of as a pusher, because what you're trying to do is get those deposits wet with the cleaning solvent so that they'll come out of there, okay? So here we go. And when I pull this out of here, you're going to see that there's some dirt built up on this patch. It's not a lot, because when I took this to the range the other day, I didn't shoot it a lot. I put about 50 rounds through both guns, so it's about 25 rounds apiece, which isn't a lot. Okay, and we clean things up. Okay, here we go. Now, on to oiling. Like I said, we're not going to go crazy with the oil can on this particular gun. I just don't think it's necessary with this polymer frame. There's only a few spots that I think we're really going to get the oil into. As a gunsmith, I like to oil springs because I've changed a lot of springs due to under lubrication. Now, I get some flack for that, but here in South Florida, we have a very different set of circumstances. Our humidity here is really, really high. So I tend to err on the side of over-oiling rather than under-oiling because we have a severe condensation problem here. That can, when the gun sweats, because you're going to take it out into 95% humidity, okay, when that gun sweats, you're going to end up with water down inside the gun where the springs are. And this water that we have here is evaporated seawater. So it's mildly corrosive. So like I said, I tend to want to err on the side of lubricate it rather than leave it unlubricated. Now, the recoil spring moves a lot. On this plastic guide rod, you're not going to get much wear out of this. So if you don't want to put a lot of oil on that spring, that's fine. It's not going to hurt it any. Generally, I put some oil on it and I rub it all over it and let it go with that. Okay. Now, this rod does fit inside this carrier, okay? And that spring does move inside of that carrier a little bit, okay, as it moves. But even so, there's just not a lot of wear that's going to take place on this particular carrier. All right, so from here, we're going to move on, and like I said, we're going to lubricate our safety. I want to remind people that a safety is something that, oh, you need to absolutely use. Yes, use the safety. Don't be afraid to use the safety. But don't rely solely on that safety to keep others around you safe. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, just because the safety is on doesn't mean it's okay to point the gun at somebody. It's not. Okay? So don't rely exclusively on that safety. Now, on your slide rails, I recommend you put a drop in the back and a drop in the front, and that's about it. Okay? All right. So, there is one other place that I like to put some oil, and that's on the outside of the barrel itself. Now, why would I do that? Well, because it passes through the slide, okay, when the gun is in operation. Okay, so I like to put a little bit right here, okay. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little, okay. And in this track where the bolt, or where the carrier causes that barrel to rotate, you're definitely going to want oil in there. That you need, okay, because that's a high wear area, an area. So after we've got it all oiled, let's start the reassembly process. All right. And we remember how the barrel came out of the gun and how it goes back into the gun. All right. So I'm going to put another drop of oil on here just to be sure. Okay. It just drops right back in, okay, and it rotates. Now that locks that barrel into place when you rotate it back like that, but it also sets you up for the carrier. This knob right here on the carrier, this lobe or cam lobe, is going to fit in this end of that slot. So the recoil spring is going to be pushing back against us just slightly. So as you push it a little bit forward, you'll feel it drop right into place, okay? And that's where you want it, okay? So kind of center it up so it looks and feels kind of centered in there, okay? Now I did fail to put a drop of oil on that shiny spot. From here, I find it easiest just rotate your frame upside down and just kind of stick it in from the back, okay? Once you get it in, you pull it back, and that will automatically snap into place and lock your gun back together, okay? So we're locked. That's it. That's all there is to cleaning this gun. It's a pretty simple gun. It's pretty straightforward. And I really enjoy this PX-4. It's not a brand new design. This has been out for a few years. But it really is a terrific little gun. And one of the other cool things about it is it's not real big. Okay, so this thing will hide fairly well on your person. It's not a huge gun. Alright. So, the PX-4 Beretta. Hey everybody, Bill 1911 here. If you found this video to be helpful and informative, don't forget to like us. And please subscribe. And by all means, come to visit us at askbill1911.com. Also, I want to talk to you about something that's very important to us, and that's your safety. So please, don't try any of the things you see on our videos until you have thoroughly reviewed and understood our safety procedures. If you're under 18 years of age, do not try any of these topics without the express permission of your parent or guardian. Thank you.